It was 47 years ago that Martin Luther King Jr. gave his great speech, I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C., where he talked about the need, the compelling need for there to be racial harmony in the United States among white and blacks. Some 4 years later, however, Martin Luther King's dream had greatly grown and expanded. He was now coming out against war, poverty, and materialism. Unfortunately, the dream has not been realized. So in fact, I think we're killing the dream. And I think the statistics today bear that out, especially among African Americans. Since 2001, more than $1 trillion has been spent on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. At the same time that taxpayer dollars are being used to fuel the war machine, 20% of children and 23% of the elderly live in poverty. Black household income is roughly 61% of white household income, a 5% improvement from what it was in 1969. Although African Americans account for only 12% of the population, they make up 44% of the nation's prison population. Unlike the national unemployment average of 10%, joblessness among blacks is closer to 16% and a staggering 34.5% for young black men. And with the housing market tanking, some of the highest foreclosure rates have been in communities with large black populations. A lot of people pay lip service to Martin Luther King and what he stood for, but I'm not sure they represent him. You have Fox News host Glenn Beck on August 28th, standing where Martin Luther King stood when he gave his I Have a Dream speech, and is having a rally. He has war hawk Sarah Palin speaking. At the same time, you have Al Sharpton doing a sort of counter demonstration, building a 4-foot monument to Martin Luther King. I think we all miss the point. The point is we shouldn't be bickering. We should all be joining together and holding hands in a peace march. That's what Martin Luther King would want. In fact, if those who pay lip service to Martin Luther King really want to follow his dream, then they need to carefully study his Silence is Betrayal speech, which he gave in April of 1967, exactly 1 year before he was assassinated. And I'm going to read parts of this speech, but it shows you what this man really stood for, and you can go to our website at rutherford.org and read this speech in its entirety. Here are a few paragraphs. I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. We are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked and dejected with a lost opportunity. The tide in the affairs of men does not remain at the flood. It ebbs. We must cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage. But time is deaf to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residue of numerous civilization are written the pathetic words, too late. There is an invisible book of life that faithfully records our vigilance or our neglect. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. We still have a choice today, nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. If we really want to remember Martin Luther King, we've got to stop the military machine and what it's doing to this country and parts of the world. It's destroying our economy. It's leaving us in poverty. And if we really, and I must emphasize, if you really want to remember Martin Luther King, then it's time to give peace a chance.